The void beyond Pluto was silent, but the silence was about to break. The Krith Dominion fleet, dark and sharp as knives, cut through the solar system like a storm of shadows. Their ships were massive, built with black metal that drank in the starlight. Engines burned blue fire, leaving trails that glowed against the darkness. To the Krith, this was not a battle, it was a harvest. Earth would fall like so many other worlds had fallen before. Commander Varek, sitting in his command throne aboard the Krith flagship Obsidian Fang, studied the tactical display. Thousands of alien warships filled the holographic screen. They outnumbered anything the humans could muster 10-1. His officers hissed with satisfaction, speaking in their tongue of how quickly the human world would kneel. "They do not know what real war is," Varek said coldly. "They have spoken bravely, but words cannot stop plasma fire. Soon, Earth will be another trophy of the Dominion." But the humans had other plans. The ambush at Pluto. The first strike came when the Krith crossed the orbit of Pluto. To them, Pluto was nothing more than a frozen rock, a lonely dwarf planet with no value. They did not know that beneath its icy surface, humanity had prepared a surprise. As the Krith formation moved past the planet, sensors detected sudden movements. At first, the aliens thought it was natural debris, but then dozens of asteroids came alive. Engines roared, ice broke apart, and massive cannons emerged from hidden bases. Human warships rose from the darkness like ghosts. Admiral Rayna Carter's fleet had been waiting for this moment. "Fire," she commanded. From the asteroid field, missiles and energy beams streaked across the void. The first wave struck unprepared Krith ships. Explosions lit the dark, tearing holes into the alien formation. Ships 3 times the size of Earth's vessels broke apart in fire. The Krith reeled in shock. How could humans, creatures they believed weak, strike with such precision? Their commanders barked orders, trying to regroup. But the humans had already set the trap. Entire fields of rocks had been mined with explosives. With a single signal, they detonated, sending deadly fragments smashing through enemy hulls. The Krith were forced to scatter, their tight formation broken. On board her flagship Resolute Dawn, Admiral Carter watched the chaos unfold. Her eyes were calm, but her hands gripped the armrests tightly. This was only the beginning. "Push forward," she ordered. "Hit them where they are weakest." Human ingenuity human ships were smaller, lighter, and weaker than their Krith counterparts. But what they lacked in strength they made up for in tactics. Earth's captains moved like wolves hunting a larger beast. They darted in and out of the asteroid field, using the rocks for cover. Krith cannons, built for large-scale fleet battles, struggled to track them. Every time an alien ship fired, it wasted precious energy against empty space. Meanwhile, human missiles darted from every angle. They struck fuel lines, weapon ports, and engines. Where Krith ships expected direct battles, they faced a swarm of stings that bled them dry. On one Krith destroyer, alarms screamed as fire spread across its decks. The crew fought desperately to control the damage, but a second wave of human torpedoes tore through the hull. The destroyer split in half, drifting into the void. Back on Earth, people listened to fragments of radio transmissions. They heard reports of human victories, though they also heard the cries of ships lost. Families wept for those who would never return, but pride grew stronger than grief. Humanity was fighting back and winning the first round. The Krith counterattack, but the Krith were not fools. Commander Varek roared with fury as reports flooded in. Dozens of his ships were gone, destroyed by creatures he thought inferior. His clawed hand slammed onto the control console. "Enough of this game," he shouted. "Crush them with full force." The Krith fleet shifted formation. Larger warships moved forward, unleashing barrages of plasma fire. Beams of green energy cut through asteroids, turning hiding places into molten dust. One by one, human ships were struck. A corvette exploded in a flash, its crew gone in an instant. A frigate spun out of control before breaking apart. Rayna Carter's calm voice filled the human comms. "Hold the line. Every second we delay them is another second for Earth." Her fleet fought bravely, but the losses mounted. Humanity had drawn blood, but the Krith still had overwhelming numbers, a message of defiance. As the battle raged, Rayna ordered an open broadcast. Her voice spread across every frequency, reaching not only her own ships but the Krith as well. "You thought we would break. You thought we would run. But look around you. This is only the beginning. We are humanity, and we will not bow." On the Krith flagship, Varek sneered as he heard her voice. But deep inside, a shadow of doubt crept in. These humans were not like the other species the Dominion had crushed. They were not begging for mercy. They were biting back. Her message also reached other corners of the galaxy. Hidden colonies, traders, and even enslaved peoples under Krith rule caught fragments of her broadcast. To them, it was more than defiance, it was hope. If humans could fight back, maybe they could too. Fighting spirit. The battle dragged on for hours. Human fleets fought with everything they had. And though their numbers dwindled, their spirit did not. Captain Elias Grant, commanding a small destroyer called Iron Will, saw his ship burning, its engines failing. He looked at his crew, young men and women who had never known peace, only preparation. He gave a single order: ram them. The Iron Will turned toward a Krith cruiser. Engines flared one last time. The two ships collided in a blazing explosion, destroying the alien vessel at the cost of human lives. Across the fleet, stories like this repeated. Humanity was ready to give everything. Rayna Carter, watching these sacrifices, felt her heart ache. Every loss was personal, but she also knew each sacrifice sent a message louder than words. Humanity would not surrender. The first victory, by the time the battle ended, the void near Pluto was littered with wreckage. Hundreds of ships, both human and Krith, drifted silent, torn apart by war. The humans had lost many brave souls, but the Krith had lost something far greater: their pride. For the first time in their history, the Krith Dominion had been forced to retreat in the face of a primitive world. Their commanders pulled back to regroup, leaving behind burning ships as evidence of their defeat. On Earth, cheers erupted when the news spread. Humanity had survived the first clash. They had drawn blood from giants, but Admiral Carter knew the truth. This was not victory. It was only the opening round of a far greater war. As she stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the stars glitter coldly, she whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning. The storm is still coming." The battle had begun and the galaxy was watching. The solar system was no longer a quiet home. The battle for Earth had begun in earnest, and humanity's survival depended on every mind, every hand, and every weapon ready to fight. The first clash near Pluto had shaken both sides. The Krith Dominion, once confident and arrogant, had learned that Earth was not as weak as they assumed. But their numbers were vast and their power could not be ignored. Admiral Rayna Carter knew this. Standing on the bridge of Resolute Dawn, she studied the tactical displays, each one showing alien ships moving closer to the inner planets. Losses were already heavy. Ships that had fought bravely in the asteroid ambush now drifted silently, destroyed in the chaos of space combat. Still, the Admiral did not falter. "This is not a defeat," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "This is a lesson for them. Every move we make teaches them that humanity cannot be broken. Focus on survival and we turn every loss into advantage." Her officers nodded. Every human knew what was at stake. Earth itself. Human ingenuity in action. The Krith advance moved steadily toward the inner planets, confident that their massive fleet would overwhelm Earth's defenses. But the humans had prepared not just fleets but strategies. They used every planet, moon, and asteroid as a weapon. Mars had become a fortress. Underground tunnels, created long before the first Krith approach, now held armored units ready to strike. Troops waited in silence, watching for enemy landers. When the Krith attempted to deploy forces to Mars' surface, they found themselves trapped in ambushes, facing human soldiers armed with weapons that combined Earth technology with alien fragments. On the moon, the story was similar. What looked like barren craters concealed human outposts. Long-range railguns and hidden missile bays fired at unsuspecting Krith dropships. The aliens, confident in their technological superiority, were shocked by the precision and timing of human attacks. Even in orbit around Earth, small human craft darted like lightning. They struck larger alien vessels repeatedly, and then vanished before the Krith could counterattack. Human ingenuity was proving stronger than size or numbers, a grim lesson for the Krith commander. Varek's pride was cracking. He had led the Dominion through countless victories, yet here they were stalled by a species they considered weak. Reports of losses came in steadily. Destroyers crippled, frigates exploded, and entire squadrons forced to retreat. "What is this?" he hissed to his officers. "How can a species so small, so primitive, cause such losses?" The Krith were skilled in war. but they had never encountered an enemy that learned from every engagement. Humans adapted quickly. Every mistake the Krith made was used against them in the next battle. A feint here, a hidden fleet there, a sudden ambush in an asteroid belt. They could not predict humanity's moves, and the humans were relentless. Even after losing ships, they continued to strike, reorganize, and attack again. Their losses only hardened their resolve. Where the Krith saw weakness, humanity saw opportunity. Experimental weapons human scientists had kept a secret. Hidden deep in the system near Jupiter, a massive experimental device waited. It was a gravity manipulation weapon, capable of bending space itself. Its creators had worked in silence for years, aware that the Krith's fleet could easily destroy it if discovered. Now the device was active. On Rayna Carter's command, energy surged through Jupiter's orbit. Invisible fields twisted the trajectory of incoming Krith ships. Beams that once moved in straight lines now curved unpredictably. Enemy formations collapsed as vessels collided, unable to correct their courses. From the Krith flagship, Vayrek roared in frustration. Hundreds of ships were destroyed or disabled in seconds. "This cannot be," he shouted. "They are not following logic. They are impossible." But the humans only smiled in their stations. This was the moment their preparation showed its full power. Guerrilla tactics on the surface. While space battles raged, human forces on Mars and the Moon executed tactics that the Krith could not predict. Using terrain, stealth, and ingenuity, they forced alien troops into traps. Human soldiers set decoys and used drones to mislead enemy sensors. Alien forces found themselves walking into narrow canyons rigged with explosives, or surrounded by hidden artillery. A squadron led by Captain Lyra Jansen on Mars lured a Krith battalion into a canyon filled with magnetic mines. As the enemy advanced, the mines triggered, disabling dozens of drop vehicles and scattering the rest. The human squad moved quickly, eliminating stragglers and saving their own with minimal casualties. Even though the numbers were against them, humans used every environment to their advantage. The Krith were strong, but they were slow to adapt to new terrain and unexpected strategies. Humanity's creativity turned the battlefield into a living weapon. The spirit of humanity, Admiral Carter understood that the humans' greatest weapon was not their technology, but their spirit. Across the solar system, soldiers, engineers, pilots, and civilians were working together. Each person knew their role and the importance of their actions. Even those who would not fight directly contributed by maintaining communications, piloting supply ships, and monitoring enemy movements. Stories of courage spread rapidly. A small group of miners on an asteroid field defended a critical energy relay against a Krith boarding party, holding them off long enough for reinforcements to arrive. On the Moon, medics and engineers worked in tandem to keep wounded soldiers alive, their calm determination inspiring others to keep fighting. The Krith could not understand this unity. On their ships, whispers of fear began to rise. Humans were not merely resisting, they were thriving under pressure. Each setback the Krith experienced fueled their enemy's determination. A turning point. By the time the Krith fleet reached the orbit of Mars, the battle had shifted. They had assumed victory would be swift, but the humans had slowed their advance. Entire battalions of Krith forces had been lost in ambushes. Their formations were fractured. Confidence that had once been absolute was now replaced by caution, and even fear. Admiral Carter convened her commanders in a strategic session aboard Resolute Dawn. Holographic displays showed enemy positions, weak points, and damaged ships. She spoke clearly and decisively. "Every moment we hold is a victory. Every loss we survive is a lesson. Continue to strike, continue to adapt, and make them regret underestimating us. This is the turning tide. They think they are overwhelming us, but we will show them that numbers alone do not win wars." Her officers nodded. They knew she was right. Humanity was not yet victorious, but they were gaining the upper hand, not through sheer power, but through intelligence, bravery, and resilience. The galaxy watches far beyond the solar system. Other civilizations were taking notice. Signals from the Krith fleet were intercepted by observers from distant worlds. They had never seen a species stand up to the Dominion and inflict such damage. Some whispered hope. Others reconsidered alliances with the Krith. If humans could fight back against the mightiest conquerors in the galaxy, perhaps it was possible for others to resist as well. Humanity's struggle was becoming a symbol, not just for themselves, but for every oppressed species across the stars. Even the Krith began to understand that Earth was not just a target. They were facing a force unlike any they had encountered. Before the calm before the next storm as the battle for Mars and the Moon settled into a tense stalemate. Human forces took stock of their gains and losses. Ships were repaired, weapons replenished, and wounded soldiers treated. The cost had been high, but the morale was stronger than ever. Admiral Carter gazed at the stars from the bridge of her flagship. She knew the Krith would not retreat forever. They would regroup, repair their ships, and launch a new offensive. But humanity had learned something vital. They could face the Dominion and survive. She whispered to herself, a quiet promise carried across space. This is only the beginning. They will learn the consequences of challenging humanity. In the shadows and silence of the solar system, fleets prepared for the next phase. Every planet, moon, and hidden station became a part of the defense. Humanity had turned the tide, not yet to victory, but to a position of strength. And somewhere in the dark, the Krith Dominion began to rethink everything they thought they knew about the human race. The final battle had begun. The Krith fleet, shaken but far from defeated, surged toward Earth's orbit. They were angry, frustrated, and wary. Their arrogance had been wounded in the battles at Pluto, Mars, and the Moon. Commander Veyrek's scales glistened with tension as he stared at the tactical display aboard the Obsidian Fang. "They have delayed us at every turn," he hissed. "They have ambushed us, damaged our ships, and defied us at every step. They fight with more courage than sense. But this ends now. We crush them here. We finish this war." Veyrek believed his words were ironclad. He had prepared his fleet for a final strike, a concentrated assault that would annihilate the human forces. But he still did not understand the humans fully. They did not fight just with weapons. They fought with spirit, determination, and unity, the things no conqueror could destroy so easily. Earth's final line admiral, Rayna Carter, had spent days coordinating every defense in the solar system. Every ship, station, and hidden weapon had been prepared for this moment. "This is it," she said to her officers aboard Resolute Dawn. "Every moment we hold, every strike we make, counts. This is our home. This is humanity's stand. We will not falter." Her officers nodded, their eyes filled with courage. Thousands of soldiers, pilots, and engineers across Earth and its colonies knew the stakes. They were ready to risk everything. Rayna activated the global broadcast once more. Her calm voice echoed across the solar system. "To the Krith Dominion, you sought war. You thought we would surrender. You were wrong. This is Earth, this is humanity, and we will not bow." The battle reaches Earth. The Krith fleet arrived in Earth's orbit with firepower unmatched by any human fleet. Energy beams tore through the void and massive ships hovered over the planet ready to strike. But humanity had a plan. Orbiting stations fired coordinated volleys of missiles, lasers, and hybrid projectiles. Smaller human vessels weaved between the massive alien ships, striking where their weapons were weak. Every planet, moon, and asteroid became a part of the battlefield. On the surface, cities were prepared for evacuation, but humans did not simply hide. Defenses were ready: missiles, railguns, and automated turrets. Civilian pilots volunteered to fly armed ships, turning even ordinary vehicles into instruments of resistance. The Krith were shocked. Every attack they expected to be simple met with clever strategies and fierce resistance. The humans fought not only with weapons, but with intelligence and courage. The climax of space combat, the decisive moment, came near the orbit of Earth itself. Human and Krith fleets clashed in a storm of fire and debris. Explosions lit the darkness as ships collided. Energy beams scorched hulls, and debris drifted silently among the stars. Captain Elias Grant, now commanding the human vanguard, led a daring strike against the Krith flagship. Using a combination of speed and stealth, his squadron weaved through heavy fire, reaching the massive vessel's vulnerable rear engines. "Now," Grant shouted. The human ships fired their final salvo. Explosions erupted, tearing the Krith flagship apart. Veyrek's command throne shook violently as his ship collapsed in flames. The Krith fleet faltered, leaderless and confused, while human ships pressed forward with renewed determination. The spirit of humanity triumphs. The destruction of the Krith flagship was not just a tactical victory, it was a symbol. Every human soldier, pilot, and engineer saw the proof. The Krith were not invincible. On Mars, troops cheered as news of the flagship's destruction spread. On the Moon, engineers celebrated as alien dropships retreated in chaos. Across Earth, people watched the final waves of the battle unfold, realizing that humanity had survived and struck a powerful blow against a force that had thought them weak. Rayna Carter remained focused, issuing orders to continue the fight with precision. Her calm leadership and determination inspired everyone around her. "This is our world," she said quietly. "And today we remind the galaxy that humanity cannot be broken." The aftermath. The Krith retreated, their fleet battered and leaderless. They had underestimated humanity, and the consequences were clear. Hundreds of their ships were destroyed. Thousands of alien soldiers had been lost, their pride shattered. On Earth, people slowly emerged from shelters, watching the skies. Cities were damaged, but the planet was still alive. Humanity had survived the storm. The first broadcast that had warned the Krith now echoed across space again, not as a threat, but as a statement. You wanted war. Now you have seen the consequences. For the first time in history, humanity had repelled a powerful alien force on their home world. The victory was not without cost. Lives were lost, fleets were damaged, and the solar system bore scars. But the spirit of humanity had triumphed. A new era. The story of Earth's defiance spread across the stars. Alien civilizations watched, some with fear, others with hope. If humans could fight back against the Krith, perhaps other oppressed species could resist as well. Humans themselves began to understand the power they had unlocked. They had not only survived, they had united, adapted and proven that courage, ingenuity, and resilience could turn the tide even against impossible odds. Admiral Carter addressed her fleet one final time as they regrouped. "Remember this moment. Remember what we have achieved together. Earth is safe not because we are the strongest, but because we are united. Humanity will continue to grow, to explore, and to defend itself. And let every world, every civilization remember this. Do not underestimate humanity. We are here to stay." Her words carried hope, warning, and pride. Humanity had learned a powerful lesson. Strength was not only in weapons or numbers, but in heart, mind, and unity. The galaxy remembers across distant star systems. Messages of Earth's victory traveled faster than light. Traders, explorers, and exiled civilizations whispered the tale. Humans fought. Humans survived. Humans are not prey. The Krith Dominion retreated, but they would never forget the battle. Humanity's defiance had changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Every conqueror, every oppressor, every force seeking to dominate would now pause and reconsider before challenging humanity. Earth itself began to rebuild, but not as a frightened planet. It rebuilt with knowledge, strength, and unity. Colonies across Mars, the Moon, and beyond strengthened defenses, while scientists continued developing new technologies. Humanity had survived the storm, but now they prepared for a future where vigilance was as important as courage. The last broadcast in the end. The broadcast that started it all, the one that warned the Krith, became a symbol. Humanity had spoken to the universe not with fear but with resolve. You wanted war. The words echoed again. And now you have seen the consequences. Remember humanity. Remember Earth. We will not bow. We will not surrender. And we will endure. For generations to come, these words would inspire every human child, every soldier, and every explorer. They would remind the galaxy that while humans were small in size, their courage and determination were boundless. Humanity had faced extinction, fought against impossible odds, and survived. The war was won, but the story of their resilience would echo across the stars forever. The last broadcast was not just a warning. It was a promise. Humanity was here to stay. The galaxy was vast, full of stars, worlds, and endless life. Among this life, there were many species, some peaceful, some hostile, and some powerful. But above them all stood one race that was feared across every corner of the cosmos, the Xeran hunters. For thousands of years, the Xerans had carved their place in history with claws and fire. They were known as the deadliest predators in the universe. Their ships were sharp like blades, their bodies were built for battle, and their minds held no thought of mercy. Wherever they went, civilizations fell silent. Worlds burned and cultures vanished. Entire star systems were left in ruins after their hunts. The Zirans lived for domination. They did not trade, they did not make alliances, and they did not forgive. To them, every other species was prey. They believed themselves to be the apex of all life, and nothing had ever proven them wrong. On their homeworld, stories of their victories were sung in deep, growling voices. Young Zirans were raised with tales of how their ancestors defeated powerful armies, and how no prey had ever resisted them for long. Their archives were filled with records of species they had erased, and their halls were decorated with the bones of creatures they had hunted. In their culture, strength was everything. To show fear was weakness, and weakness was unacceptable. The Zirans were proud, arrogant, and certain that the galaxy belonged to them alone. It was during one of their endless campaigns that the Zirans first noticed a strange world in the quiet arm of the galaxy. Their long-range scouts had been charting new systems when they found a blue planet circling a yellow sun. The world was rich with oceans, mountains, and green continents. From the skies above, the planet seemed peaceful, almost fragile. Its defenses were simple compared to the advanced shields and cannons of other civilizations the Zirans had destroyed. The creatures walking its lands looked weak, thin, and unthreatening. The Ziran commander, General Karith, studied the planet's data from his throne-like chair aboard the flagship. His eyes glowed with cold amusement as he listened to the reports. "Primitive technology," one scout said. "No starfleets, no orbital weapons," another added. "Small weapons, metal projectiles, chemical explosions. They cannot stand against us." Karith gave a deep, rumbling laugh. "Then it shall be a hunt. Let us see how quickly they fall." The Council of Hunters agreed with him. To them, this planet was nothing more than a new hunting ground, a place where they could demonstrate their superiority. They already imagined the bones of its creatures displayed in their halls. But what none of them understood was that this small blue planet, called Earth, was unlike any other world they had ever faced. The Zirans began their preparations. Their fleet made of black and silver ships gathered like a storm. Their engines roared, shaking the void. They sharpened their weapons, charged their plasma blades, and sang their hunting songs. To them, this was not war. It was sport. Among the Zirans, there was a tradition before every conquest. The warriors would sit together and speak of their victories, boasting of the prey they had taken down. One hunter, tall and scarred, stood before the others. "I once tore through the defenders of Hylos," he said proudly. "They fought with ships that could split asteroids. But against me, they were dust." Another hunter raised his claws. "I ended the last of the Venari, those who claimed to be hunters themselves. Now their name is forgotten." The warriors roared with laughter, their voices echoing in the metallic halls of the flagship. To them, Earth was already a defeated world. They expected no challenge, no resistance. As their fleet approached the blue planet, they saw its beauty shining in the darkness of space. Oceans sparkled like gems, clouds drifted in soft patterns, and the lands below were alive with forests, deserts, and cities of light. The hunters saw all of this, and they smiled cruelly. To them, beauty was only another word for weakness. General Karith stood before his army and raised his claws high. "This world is nothing. Its people are prey. Today we remind the galaxy who the Zirans are. Today we hunt." The fleet answered with a thunderous roar, shaking the very air inside their ships. Engines blazed, and the first wave of hunters descended toward Earth. But as the ships cut through the clouds, something stirred on the planet below. Cities filled with humans who had never seen such creatures looked up at the dark shapes in the sky. Fear spread. But along with fear came something else: anger, courage, and determination. The Zirans expected their prey to scatter like animals. They expected to hear screams of surrender and watch as humans bowed before them. Instead, they would soon learn that Earth's history was written in survival. For millions of years, humans had lived as hunters themselves. They had faced beasts larger than themselves, endured ice ages, built tools, and fought wars. They were not the strongest, nor the fastest, nor the fiercest creatures in the galaxy, but they had something far more dangerous: the will to adapt, to endure, and to fight until the end. The Zirans did not know it yet, but by choosing Earth, they had made a mistake greater than any in their long, bloody history. As the first shadows of their invasion touched the ground, the world held its breath. The predators believed they were about to begin another easy hunt. But what was truly beginning was the story of how the hunters would become the hunted. The Xiran fleet entered Earth's skies like a storm of shadows. Their ships cut through the clouds, black metal against blue heavens. The people below stared in disbelief. At first, many thought it was some kind of strange weather or an unknown human aircraft. But as the great vessels descended, their true nature became clear. The hunters were here. In New York, children pointed to the sky, their voices full of both fear and wonder. In Tokyo, office workers stopped in the middle of busy streets staring upward with wide eyes. In Cairo, Paris, and Rio de Janeiro, people froze as the massive alien shapes darkened the sun. Humanity had dreamed of life beyond the stars, but no one had imagined it would come with claws and fire. The first strikes came without warning. Xiran warriors dropped from their ships in streams of fire, their armor gleaming, their weapons crackling with energy. They landed in crowded areas, moving with speed and power. Buildings trembled as their plasma cannons burned holes through walls. Humans screamed, scattered, and ran. The hunters advanced, expecting the same scene they had witnessed on 100 other worlds. Prey fleeing, prey begging, prey breaking, but almost immediately, something different happened. In a small street in London, a group of police officers raised their handguns against the towering creatures. Their weapons were simple, nothing compared to alien technology. Still, the humans fired without hesitation. Bullets tore through the air. A Xiran fell, roaring in pain. The hunters had not expected resistance so soon. In a market square in Mexico City, civilians threw stones, bottles, and even metal bars at the invaders. When one hunter raised its plasma blade, a group of people rushed at it together, tackling the creature with their bare hands. Some were struck down, but others held on, refusing to let go. In Beijing, soldiers opened fire with tanks and machine guns. The streets shook with the thunder of explosions as humans met the invaders with steel and courage. Across the planet, chaos filled the air, but woven into that chaos was something strange. Unity. Humans were not just running. They were fighting. They were helping one another. They were standing together. General Karith watched from the flagship above, his eyes narrowing. This was not the reaction he expected. His hunters had faced armies before, but prey armies usually broke quickly under fear. Humans were different. They fought with desperation and something else he could not yet name. On the ground, the hunters pushed forward. They were stronger, faster, and armed with advanced weapons, yet every step they took was met with defiance. In Chicago, a firefighter carried a child through smoke while holding an axe in the other hand, swinging it at a creature 3 times his size. In Moscow, a grandmother pulled her grandchildren into a basement and threw a Molotov cocktail at the invaders chasing them. In rural villages, farmers used hunting rifles, bows, and even farm tools to protect their land. The Xirans laughed at first. To them, human weapons were primitive. But laughter turned to silence when they began to realize something unsettling. Humans were landing blows. Humans were not giving up. Even without advanced technology, even against impossible odds, these so-called prey were drawing blood. One hunter snarled at another during the battle in Los Angeles. "They are not like the others. They do not scatter," his companion growled. "It does not matter. They will still fall." Yet as the hours passed, the Xirans lost more warriors than they had expected. Their arrogance had blinded them. They had entered the fight unprepared, assuming it would be simple. Now they found themselves surrounded by enemies who refused to quit. For the first time in their long history, the hunters felt something they had never known before: uncertainty. Meanwhile, humans across the world began to realize something equally shocking. The invaders could be hurt. They were powerful, yes, and their weapons could tear through steel, but they were not invincible. A bullet to the right place, an explosion at the right time, or a brave group working together could bring one down. News spread quickly through television, radio, and the internet. Images of humans fighting back appeared everywhere. A soldier taking down a hunter in Berlin, a group of villagers ambushing a patrol in Africa, civilians rescuing survivors from burning buildings while others built barricades. Hope began to grow. In Washington, D.C., leaders gathered in urgency. Military commanders spoke of organizing defenses while scientists tried to study the enemy's weapons. The president addressed the people on broadcast, calling for unity. "We face a threat unlike any in history, but we are not alone. We are one people, one humanity. Together we will endure. In every city those words were heard. Fear was still present, but courage rose with it. Back in orbit, General Karith slammed his claws against the arm of his chair. Reports came in from across Earth. His warriors were winning battles, but at a price far higher than expected. Too many casualties, too much resistance. How can this be? One officer growled. They are weak. Their weapons are toys. Their bodies are fragile. Karith's voice was low and cold. Perhaps weakness is not what we see. Perhaps it is something else. Watch them carefully. These humans are not prey. They are something more. The officer scoffed, but deep inside, unease spread through the ranks. For the first time, the hunters whispered questions they had never spoken before. Could they fail? Could this prey be dangerous? On the ground, in the smoking ruins of a city, a young human soldier stood among his unit. His clothes were torn, his body bruised, but his eyes burned with determination. They think we are prey, he said to his companions. But they have no idea what we are. We are hunters too. We have always been hunters. The words spread like fire among the survivors. Across the planet, in whispers and shouts, in speeches and messages, the same idea took root. Humans would not be hunted. The battles of that first day ended with cities scarred and many lives lost. But humanity had shown something the Zirans had never faced before. Resistance, unity, defiance. The invaders had arrived expecting easy prey. Instead, they found a species that refused to kneel, a species that fought back with everything it had. And though Earth's skies burned with war, the hunters did not realize that they had already lost something greater than a battle. They had lost their certainty, the galaxy's deadliest. Predators had made their first mistake. They had underestimated humans, and now, the true war was only beginning.